Hey everyone, welcome back to Malaysia in Focus, where we break down the stories shaping our nation. Today we're talking about a disease most of us thought was history. But what you're about to see shows it's not only back, it's spreading in ways that are taking health officials by surprise.
Okay, let's just start with a number that should really get your attention. 2,571. That is the number of tuberculosis cases reported in Malaysia in just the first 5 weeks of this year. For a disease many of us have pretty much forgotten about, that number alone is a huge wake-up call.
But here's why that number is so concerning. It's not just a big number out of nowhere, it's the trend. We're looking at a nearly 10% jump compared to the exact same time last year. In public health, a spike like this is basically a flashing red light. It's telling us that something's changing and we need to figure out what's going on, fast.
All right, so to really get our heads around this, here's our game plan. We'll start with this wake-up call. Then we'll dive into what TB actually is, who's at risk, see how Malaysia is fighting back, and finally, what you can do to protect yourself. Let's start with the situation on the ground.
Okay, first up, Malaysia's TB wake-up call. So where exactly are all these new cases popping up? Well, it turns out this isn't just a general rise everywhere. It's flaring up in very specific, concentrated areas. The health minister has confirmed that 10 new TB clusters have been found. And, a cluster isn't just a handful of cases. It's the official term for when the disease is actively spreading from person to person within a community. That's a huge deal for health authorities because it means there's an active chain of transmission happening right now. And while those new clusters are scattered across the country, the overall weight of this problem is really being felt in a few key places. As you can see right here, Sabah is dealing with the highest number of cases by far, followed by Selangor and then Sarawak. These are basically the country's current TB hotspots. And it's so important to remember that these are not just statistics. These are real people. Take Johor, for instance. One of the new clusters there involves 37 people, and tragically, 29 of them are children. The really scary part, officials trace that entire outbreak back to just one single adult. It's a powerful and heartbreaking reminder of how quickly an airborne disease can rip through a community.
So this all brings us to a really important question. What is tuberculosis anyway? I mean, we've all heard the name, but to really understand the threat, we need to be crystal clear on the difference between being infected and actually having the disease.
So, at its most basic, TB is an infection caused by a type of bacteria. It spreads through the air when someone who has the active disease coughs, sneezes, or even just talks. You breathe in those tiny droplets, and that's how the bacteria gets passed on. Now, we almost always think of TB as a lung disease. And yeah, that's its most common target. But what a lot of people don't realize is that the bacteria can actually get into your bloodstream and travel to other parts of your body, your brain, your kidneys, even your bones. And when that happens, it gets much harder to spot and can be way more dangerous.
Okay, this next part is absolutely crucial to understand. There's a huge difference between having a TB infection and having TB disease. Think of it like this. A lot of people have the bacteria in their body, but it's sleeping. This is what's called latent TB. You feel totally fine, you have zero symptoms, and you cannot pass it on to anyone. The real trouble starts when that bacteria wakes up, often because your immune system is weak. It starts multiplying, and that's when you develop active TB disease. That's when you get sick, and that's when you become contagious. If this breakdown is giving you a clearer picture, hit like and subscribe so you'll always stay ahead on Malaysia's biggest issues.
Right. So knowing the difference between the sleeping and awake bacteria helps us figure out the next logical step. Who's really at risk, and what are the signs we should all be looking out for? These are the classic red flags for active TB. The biggest one, the one you really need to pay attention to, is a nagging cough that just won't go away for 2 weeks or more. If you have that, plus other things like fevers, drenching night sweats, or losing weight when you're not trying to, that's your cue. Seriously, you need to go get it checked out. So let's say you or someone you know has these symptoms. What's the very next thing you should do? Well, the good news is the Ministry of Health has a really clear process. You just head to the nearest government clinic or hospital. They'll probably ask for a sputum sample, that's just your phlegm, to check for the bacteria, and they might follow up with a chest x-ray. What's really important is that if you do have it, they'll also screen your close family and friends to stop the spread right there and then. And that chest x-ray is such a vital tool. It lets doctors literally see the impact of the active bacteria inside the lungs, which helps to confirm a diagnosis. And it's so important to remember
that these screening services are available at our government facilities all over the country.
So now that we know how it's spotted, let's zoom out a bit. How is Malaysia as a country fighting back against this challenge? Because this isn't just about what we do as individuals, there's a whole national strategy at play. The government's basically hitting this from all sides. They're using modern tech, offering some financial help to patients, sticking to proven medical treatments, and just trying to get good, clear advice out to the public.
First up, technology. You remember the MySejahtera app from the pandemic, right? Well, it's been updated. There's a feature in there now called the Infectious Disease Tracker, and it will actually show you if there are reported TB cases nearby, so you can be aware of what's happening in your own neighborhood.
And this is a really interesting move from the Selangor state government. They're offering an RM800 incentive for patients who complete their full course of treatment. This is absolutely critical because treating TB is a marathon, not a sprint. We're talking about taking medicine every single day for at least 6 months, and it's really easy for people to stop once they start feeling better.
And this quote right here explains exactly why that incentive is so smart. An expert is warning us that if a patient stops their medication halfway through, they don't just risk getting sick all over again. They risk creating a drug-resistant strain of TB, a kind of superbug version that is way more dangerous and much harder to treat, and they can keep spreading it to others in the meantime.
So this all leads to the final, and maybe the most crucial part of this whole thing. What can we, you and I, do to protect ourselves, our families, and our communities from this rising threat?
Well, here's the good news. We're all pretty much pros at this stuff now, aren't we? The advice is going to sound really familiar. Simple things, like wearing a mask in crowded spots, practicing good cough etiquette, and just opening a window to get some fresh air moving. These are all super effective tools against an airborne disease like TB.
And of course, vaccination is a cornerstone of prevention. The BCG vaccine is given to all newborns in Malaysia as part of the national program. Now, while it doesn't always prevent the lung infection in adults, it is extremely effective at protecting children from the most severe and deadly forms of the disease, like TB meningitis, which attacks the brain. Thanks for watching. Join thousands of Malaysians who want clarity, not confusion. Tap like, hit subscribe, and let's keep making sense of this together.
So look, the numbers don't lie. While TB might feel like something out of a history book, it's very much a part of our present. It's an old enemy that's found new ways to spread in our modern, connected world. And that leaves us with one final question to think about. After everything we learned from the last pandemic, are we ready to face this old threat again?